You know, so many conversations I'm having at the moment with people, they're talking about how tough times are for them, challenging in so many different ways. And it made me start to wonder, how do I get through the challenging times of life? How do you get through the challenging times of life? How do we cope? And that question, how do I cope, is really, really relevant for me right now. If I'm transparent and real, this has been a really tough season for me over these last few days and weeks. My father, who I love very much, passed away recently, really suddenly. And I had to fly to Melbourne from Queensland, where I live, to be with my mum and my family, to prepare for the funeral and then to conduct the funeral of my dad. It was a really difficult time, and then the day after the funeral we had to fly back to Brisbane, where we are now in 14 days of quarantine. Unable to leave our room, eating average food, being totally isolated from the outside world. Still working through our own grief at the moment, my wife and I, as we spend this time sitting down thinking and reflecting about the loss of my father, who was a mentor and really the greatest role model I've ever had. You get the picture. It's a tough time. And I know for many of you right now, as this ongoing COVID pandemic continues, and the debates that are on about vaccines and should we or shouldn't we, and what vaccines we should have, and the stresses of potential lockdowns, and the pressures on work and on finance, the pressures on business. How do you navigate a way forward in the middle of that? How do you work through those challenging moments and seasons in your life? You know, we're all experiencing life-altering moments that crash into our normal and leave us teetering into places where we just wonder what happened, and we wonder how we're going to get through it. And normal is impacted in such a way that we don't think there'll ever be another normal. Maybe for you it's been a bad diagnosis from the doctor, or the loss of a job, or crushing finances, or people letting you down. Right now in August 2021, our whole world is experiencing a shake-up like we've never experienced before, and we have no idea when it'll end. You know, when our normal is shattered like this, so often we're left with fear, with grief, anxiety, heartbreak, disappointment. And that can lead to an even dire feeling, dire emotions like desperation. We start to lose our hope. We start to lose the expectations of the future. And sometimes our hope can be dimmed so much because of the harsh reality of our moments. And despair, if we get to that place, is a place where the enemy, and you know that we're in a battle, where the enemy starts to shout lies. He starts to shout out that it's too hard, that you can't do this, that you won't make it, that you might as well give up. And when we're in those places of despair, sometimes we believe that to be true. You see, the devil's desire and purpose is to steal away your hope, and to steal away my hope, and to kill our faith. But you know, hope is not just a wishy-washy feeling. It's not just a fleeting wish. True hope is greater than our worst circumstance. Why? Because true hope, is a person. And that person's name is Jesus. Jesus is known to be the hope of the world. And what I've kept reminding myself over these last few days and weeks is that Jesus is with me, working through every situation, every circumstance. Our God is greater than the event or the circumstance or any grief or any pain or any disappointment. Our hope can never be taken away when we understand that our hope has a name, and that name is Jesus. You know, they tried to take him away 2,000 years ago. They tried killing him, and Jesus overcame death, and he overcame hell, and he overcame the circumstances and the situations of those times to create a hope for us. God's answer to your circumstance and to your hopelessness and to my circumstance and to my pain is God's presence, is the presence of Jesus. The answer, the hope, is God's presence. You see, Jesus is with us. He's with you right now. No matter what mountain you face, the God of hope knows the way through it. And I'm starting to realize that in the middle of this quarantine period, on the back of the grief of losing my dad, that Jesus has traveled a path far worse than I've ever traveled. And Jesus is not surprised or intimidated by any event that alters my life, any event that destroys my normal. My hope, your hope, wants to walk hand in hand with you over the mountain of hopelessness. Jesus is there with us, wanting us to walk with him and to embrace his presence. You know, the Apostle Paul wrote about how relying on God and putting our trust in the person of hope changed everything moving forward for him. When he wrote in 2 Corinthians chapter 1 and verse 8, he said, "We want to remind you, friends, of the trouble we had in the province of Asia. The burdens laid upon us were so great and so heavy that we gave up all hope of staying alive. We felt the death sentence had been passed on us. But this happened so that we might rely not on ourselves, but only on God, who raises the dead. From such terrible dangers of death, he saves us, and he will save us." And Paul finishes with this. He says, "And we have placed our hope in him, that he will save us again." See, when we find our hope in the presence and the person of hope, and the essence of hope, when we place our hope in Jesus, he makes a way. But for me right now, in my grief and loss and isolation, just being real and being transparent, and in the concern for my family and my friends, I find myself leaning into this hope, this person of hope, this Jesus. And I do this through prayer, and I do this through just sitting in his presence, and I do this through worship. Giving my circumstances to him and allowing the hope that provides the way forward, allowing Jesus to open the doors of my heart and to provide a way forward. So let me ask you this question. What does walking with the person of hope look like for you today? In your circumstance, in your situation? What would it look like for you to reach out and grab the hand of the person of hope and allow him to lead you through this tough time? God bless.